This is the Limitless Faith, His Will, My Desire podcast show episode number 23. Our show is about inspiring, encouraging, and impacting the apostolic community to embrace the calling of God and showing the world that the best life is living for Jesus through the power of testimony. You don't want to miss out on your blessings, so be sure to follow us and subscribe. What's up, Limitless Faith family? Hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. Happy Friday to each and every one of you. God bless you guys. I'm excited for the guest that we have on for today. So welcome back to another episode this week. We've got Sister Brittany Pelkey, who's going to be sharing her story, her testimony. She's going to be talking about how to balance being a worship leader and an entrepreneur. So the importance behind time management in that sense. And also, she's going to be reflecting upon the experience of starting a business. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a blessing. So stick around to the end. If you can't watch the full episode, remember, we do have our episodes available on podcast platforms from Apple to Google to Pandora. You name it, it's on there. We've got a majority of the platforms. So please check us out on there. You can find us under Limitless Faith, His Will, My Desire. That's the name of the podcast show. But if you're going to watch us on YouTube, as you may be right now, it's under Limitless Faith Ministries. That's our YouTube channel. So please remember, subscribe, follow, smash that like button, and leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And more importantly, share with your friends and family. This is an opportunity to be a blessing to them. These stories, these testimonies are from real people reflecting God's glory and what He's doing behind the scenes and what He's doing today. Everything that we've read in the Bible, all the miracles, the wonders He's done there, He's still doing wonders and miracles today. So please share it with your friends, with your family. Give us a shout out. We'd love that. Let's get ready and jump into Sister Brittany Pelkey's testimony. All right, Sister Brittany Pelkey, thank you so much for being on the podcast show today. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm pretty excited to connect with you. It's been years since we last connected, and from our IBC days. And for all of our viewers and listeners, Brittany and I met in Indiana Bible College. We were part of the same freshman class in 2012, correct? Am I right on that? Yeah, 2012. Yeah. And so before jumping in, just, we were enjoying some of the funny memories that we shared there. But it's so exciting to kind of connect again, because I've never gotten to know your story and your background and how you got to where you are today. And I do know that your family is in the ministry. Your dad is a pastor, correct? Where you live right now? Yes. Okay. Where are you at right now in Massachusetts? What part?
So I'm in Lee, Massachusetts. But our church is in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which is it's about 20 minutes from our house.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm only familiar with Boston a little bit, and Wakefield. So how far is that from Boston?
We are about 2 hours from Boston. We're closer to New York than we are to Boston.
Oh, okay. So you're okay. I see. So you're all the way to the west side of Massachusetts. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Good deal. Well, awesome. So before we jump into your story, I like to ask every single one of my people that I interview to lead us in prayer, and then we'll jump right into it. So would you be okay leading us in prayer?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. Lord Jesus, we come before you tonight, oh God. I pray, Lord, that your will would be done tonight, Lord, that my story could inspire anyone who's listening, oh God. Lord, that people who've gone through the same struggles or the same things that I've seen, oh God, that you would touch their hearts, that you would allow the words to come out and flow in your will, oh God. We bless your name tonight, Lord. I thank you for the opportunity, Lord. Thank you in the name of Jesus.
Amen. Amen. Awesome. Good deal. So, Britt, the big question that I always started off with is, how did this start for you? Where did it start for you? What was your origin? Were you born into the church, or was it at some point down the road that you came to know Jesus, that someone shared the gospel with you?
So I've been born and raised in this. My grandfather started the church that I attend right now, and we didn't start going to church up here. We originated from Westfield. My parents did. And they traveled, they were youth pastors and stuff. And then they decided to move to Lee, where then my dad eventually became pastor after I don't even remember how many years. I think he's been pastor for 12, 13 years, 14 years, something along those lines. Yeah, so
And so,
this is all I've ever known.
wow, awesome. So for
Mhm,
you though, even though one may be growing up in the church or your parents are in the ministry, every person I've spoken to that have had a similar start off, we still have our own unique experiences, right? We still have
mhm,
our own moment where we come to understand who Jesus is and that intimacy and that relationship. So for you, at what
mhm,
age did it really hit you that you started to be more curious about, yes, mom and dad, family around you,
mhm.
you heard a lot about God, you were at church, you worshiped, but when did you start to actually now like, okay, I want to dive in deeper. I want to develop this relationship. Like when did that hit you?
Um, I don't remember like an exact age it hit me. I just know the way that like my parents raised my sister and I, like it's always been part of us.
Okay.
So, um, I would say probably like maybe 11 or 12-ish, something around
Hmm.
those that time. It wasn't anything profound, but like I have memories of like laying in bed at nighttime and just seeking after God. And I believe that was like my teen years. So it was probably around 11 or 12 that like one, not knowing anything else,
Right.
but just knowing that there was something that I needed to do myself.
Right.
And like listening to the IBC CDs and stuff like those really like got me into wanting to know more about music and know more on that level.
And so, gotcha. So around your pre-adolescent years, so 11 or 12,
Mhm.
you're starting to dive in deeper. You're starting to ask questions. Was there a moment, I don't know if you were homeschooled or were you homeschooled or public school? What did you do when growing
I
up?
was public school for the most part.
So, I guess for everyone it's a little bit different, but
Mhm.
knowing that in this day and age, but even at that time for you and I growing up, um, going to a public school, it could be a very challenging setting, with
Mhm.
teachers, friends around us that may, for the most part, not share our point of views, our beliefs, and for the most part, take on a liberal aspect, right, in our education system.
Mhm.
I think it's true today of what we see. So
Mhm.
for you, was there a moment kind of growing up? Now you're in middle school, and as you're growing up, did it challenge your faith? Did it make you want to kind of uh, dive deeper into your own convictions and the beliefs that you held?
I never really struggled with like the whole pants thing or
Yeah.
um different things like that. I believe I wouldn't say that they necessarily influenced me in any way.
Okay.
I think I was pretty strong with like dressing wise and different things like that growing up. I mean, I was questioned. Can't even tell you how many times I had this one girl ask me, it felt like every week why I wore skirts at school. And
Wow.
that question can be like a lot for
Yeah.
when you're going through school like that, you know.
Yeah.
One, you're not really you know why you do it, but like you don't know how to like answer somebody.
Right.
So I remember always like pushing it off on my parents or saying that this is what I have to do. And then I remember getting to a certain age. I don't remember if it was middle school. It was probably middle school where like I would begin to say like it was a personal conviction where I wasn't blaming it on my parents anymore or
Right.
the religion or anything like that. I was doing it for myself.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, I wouldn't say like I struggled with like going to parties or anything like that. I didn't really hang out with like the popular kids at all.
Right.
So I had my own little group of friends, so, like, they didn't really associate with all the big parties or all the some of the craziness that goes on at high school. Like, our high school was a little bit more laid back,
Yeah.
because 'cause we're from a smaller town, which that really doesn't say much sometimes. But, yeah, it wasn't I mean, I had my struggles and stuff
Yeah.
through school, as does everybody. It was hard being the only apostolic in school besides my sister, because everybody looks at you different, you know? And as a
Right.
teenager, you're trying to figure things out, and having everybody looking at you or asking you questions all the time, or you really don't know what to say sometimes,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Um,
if you could, I guess, take in a moment now, right? I would. We both graduated in 2012, right? You graduated 2012
Mhm.
in high school. Looking back at it now, if you could have a chance to kind of go back in time, because I feel, for me personally, I've learned so much in these last 8, 9 years,
Mhm.
in terms of how you should talk to people, when's the right setting in terms of
Mhm.
evangelism, the way you should answer a question, how you should develop the conversation. And at that time, I feel like I made mistakes and I was too, what's the word? Man, slipped my mind. Legalistic. I was too
Mhm.
legalistic. And so people, instead of being open to hearing the gospel, they potentially would be like, just sounds like a rule. It doesn't sound like a relationship.
Mhm.
Does it, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, if
Absolutely.
you could take a moment now and kind of go back, I know you had mentioned the skirt. I don't know if there was any other potential struggles where they challenged a certain area of our belief for you at that time
Mhm.
in school. What would you tell yourself, or how would you advise yourself to kind of handle those situations? Would you do it a little differently?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I wouldn't blame it on my parents, because like
Yeah,
what I know now and what I knew then was
yeah,
something different. Like you try to fit in at school and we weren't meant to fit in, but as a teenager and stuff, you're like, but like I'm in this school with all of these kids
right.
and I'm like the only one. But I would definitely handle it a lot different because like if I knew what I knew now then,
Yeah.
I feel like it would be completely different.
And so for you, you feel like you didn't struggle really with the environment in terms of your belief in God. Like that was
Mhm.
completely strong for you. It was just
Mhm.
more of the aspect of they would notice that the exterior end of it
Mhm.
your standards were completely different compared to theirs, right? Is that
Mhm.
what would you say was more the struggle with?
Yeah.
Right. So
Mhm.
and it's interesting because for me thinking back to high school, um my high school definitely was more where there was definitely a lot of parties. People wanted to go out, and so I would get more
Mhm.
of the questions about drinking, or
Mhm.
marijuana. They'd be
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
"Hey, Javier, God created weed. He created marijuana and stuff." And then we would get
Mhm.
into these conversations of, "Is it right or is it wrong?" and things
Mhm.
like that. So, all right, Britt. So it seems like as you were growing up, you were able to create a strong foundation, which
Mhm.
I think it's very clear, and for all of our viewers and listeners, you were able to have this strong foundation because it came from your mom and dad. They created
Mhm.
a strong foundation for you. Would that be right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they were able to invest that time to help you understand, like they weren't pressing on you. They were able to help you kind of develop that relationship and that you were making
Mhm.
those your own steps. Was that how it seemed
Mhm.
like?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, it goes back to that, right? Strong families, strong churches.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's a prime example, for you to share how really going through, and I think we come to agreement for public schools, it's definitely a lot challenging when you're
Mhm.
the only apostolic there.
Mhm.
Um, all right, cool deal, Britt. So walk me through now as we're in this time. You're in high school now, so high school was where we're starting to think about college. We're starting to think about careers. We're starting to think about, all right, what's my next chapter? I've got to learn to be
Mhm.
financially independent. You and I met at IBC, so kind of walk me through these next couple of years in high school where you had to choose what were you going to do next in your life in that chapter. How did that come out to play for you?
So I had my mind made up since I don't even remember how old, probably I want to say about 11 or 12. I listened, actually, you remember the Testimony CD by IBC?
I do. Yeah.
We listened to that song or that CD all the time. Like some of our favorite songs come from that CD. And I remember listening to that CD and telling my parents, like, this is where I want to go to school. This is where I feel like I should
Wow.
be. And that CD was forever ago. But I remember distinctly in that moment, like IBC was where I wanted to be, whether it was right out of high school or not. I wasn't sure at that point in time.
Right.
But like going through high school, my eyes were on Bible college for sure. Um, I always talk to my dad about like secular jobs and careers and all of that. And I was dead set on getting going into some type of computer something.
Right.
Never knew like exactly what, but I've always been kind of a techie. So I've enjoyed like working with computers and solving problems with computers or cell phones or anything along those lines. So like that was always in the back of my head. But I always have my dad's words of career, career, career. And I remember being at a service, I believe it was a youth service. I want to say it was either sophomore year or my junior year of high school. And our superintendent preached and he asked if any of the young people felt a call to go to Bible college. And like I waited a second and like I just felt the pull to go to the altar, and God confirmed then that it was his will for me to attend IBC. Um, and like I felt it more stronger that day than ever. So that was where I headed off to when I graduated high school.
Would you say that one of the bigger impacts that you came to embrace where more and more you just felt like the guidance of God, like him directing your steps, um, and impacting you to where here you are today, right? Like we all go through this process, and here's your
Mhm.
process, right? You just went through this moment of, okay, I'm taking a leap of faith here. I'm going to Bible college where I'm not getting a secular career degree that would
Mhm.
help me financially, but I'm
Right.
running after God's calling. So,
Mhm.
was there a specific area in the ministry that you felt called to? Was it like Sunday school, youth group, or you were just kind of like, let's do it, God, and you'll show me on the way?
So I've been involved with music basically all my life. Guess I started praise singing at 3 or 5, one of those ages.
Hmm.
And my grandmother makes sure she tells me all the time that I was up there praise singing with everybody. I think it was 3. And then I just remember singing throughout the years, and I started leading worship at 15. So
Wow.
I knew music was where God had called me to. I mean, like you always have those questions, so like, is it really, but
Right.
I knew I felt the call of God towards music ministry forever.
Yeah.
So that's why I went to IBC, but I also felt and still feel a call for young people
Mm,
as well. But my center focus was
music.
music.
Yeah.
hmm
How did you feel at 15 years of age now leading worship? Was that pretty nerve wracking for you?
It was intense. Like, I try to remember, like, the emotions that I felt, like,
Yeah.
when I first started. And again, I had been singing for a while, and I would, like, help my dad and stuff, and he would lead worship or my grandmother would. But, like, for me to be able to do it on my own and, like, have people following me, that was difficult. To
Yeah.
learn how to, like, 1, lead a service, 2, play and sing at the same time, lead your praise singers, make sure your drummer and your guitars are all together. That's a lot for a 15-year-old. Um, but it was a lot.
How,
I'll say it was a lot.
how do you know sheet music, or did you have to learn by playing by ear?
So, I did take a lot of lessons, between, like, secular lessons that, my parents would put me through. I'm not good with sheet music at all. Like, if someone shows me a note like that, I'm like, "I can't read that, I can't." Like, I have to really stop, I have to really think about it. So
Right.
music is not my thing. I
Yeah.
do, what's called chords. So, like, if someone gives me, like, say, a song that's in C and it has, like,
Right.
the letters
Yeah.
with the song. I can do that,
Right.
but sheet music is not my not
It's
my
like
thing at all. I've tried.
it's like a different language, right? Like we're trying to
Yeah,
learn,
it's mhm,
like we only know English, and then we're like, okay, well, we don't know French. Now we're trying to learn French. Like that's how it seems. Like you're
right.
just
It
completely different
does.
worlds. Yeah. No.
Completely different.
And it's probably one of the things, Britt, that I wish when I was a lot younger. Like I'm talking elementary age, I was put in school for piano. I or
Mhm,
just really instruments, just play drums, piano, guitar. Like I just wish I was a part of that because at IBC is when I started trying to practice, and I was like, man, this
mhm.
is so hard at such an older age because it just doesn't flow. But you're a
Right,
little kid, you're like this little guy, and you're just like a
right.
sponge. You just
Mhm,
you memorize it. Um,
mhm,
so Britt, I think just to take a moment, I like these moments that may seem like a rabbit trail, like we're just segueing completely off, but I think they're really valuable. So like I want to take a moment and focus on this because when it comes to leading in worship, it's not something that is like checking off your list right on the day. So,
Mm-mm.
it's just like when you go preach at a pulpit, you go up there as a worship leader, you respect and understand
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, I want to be used by God. I want to be sensitive to his direction, his
Mm-hmm.
to what he wants to do here. And I don't want to be professional. I don't want to uh kind of let my flesh take over, but really allow
Mm-hmm.
myself to be sensitive. So how do you do that? Or I guess two part question here. For you leading worship, you're also concentrated to make sure that everyone else, all the instruments are kind of in the same flow, right? Everyone's on the
Mm-hmm.
same rhythm. But at the same time, you're trying to concentrate and allow God to move in a powerful way. How do you balance that out for you where you're feeding yourself in worship,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also like focused to make sure we're all on the same page?
It's definitely a practice thing and a prayerful thing for sure.
Mhm.
At 15, it was so difficult.
Right.
But where I am now with the experience that I've gotten, it's a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
And like I remember some services I'd come home and be like even to my parents or just in prayer, like I don't feel like I accomplished like what I was supposed to accomplish.
Mm,
Um, I don't know if it was the spirit wasn't going the right way or like I wasn't focused on the right thing. Um, but you've got to make sure practice is huge for sure.
right.
And making sure that if you're not the piano player, that your piano player, your drummer, and you are all in sync. That's
Yeah.
major. Prayer is of course key, but the practicing, knowing when to cut out, and I've never been one to do a song exactly how it's off this CD.
Mm,
Um, it just has never come like that for me. Um, and I always was hard on myself because of that. But then I'm like, but that's not how I feel God has created me to lead worship.
right.
It's different. It's not like
Yeah.
everybody else. And I've had to come to accept that. And I lead the way that I feel God wants me to lead.
Right.
Um, but making sure like your background is set and good and comfortable with what they're doing. Like I've been known to throw out new songs on a Sunday morning, and my sister was the piano player for a while before she got married, and she would get so upset with me because she's like, I haven't heard this song, or she maybe has heard it, but like she's never played it. She's like, you can't
Right.
just throw things on me like that. And like her and I learning things is different. And you, as a worship leader, you have to adjust to the way that others learn.
Right.
And like throwing things on people Sunday morning, they freak out. Where me, I'm go with the flow. If God tells me to do a different song Sunday morning than the set that we picked out on Thursday night from practice, I do it, like I'm just able to flow easier that way.
Right.
But you have to adjust and adjust to how other people work, because you can't just throw them on a new song Sunday morning and expect them to play it perfectly
Right.
when they've never been able to play it themselves before. It's definitely trial and error too.
Right.
Because if I knew, like in high school, if I knew what I knew now then, things would have gone more smoothly and I would be able to operate in the flow of the spirit better and different things like that. And it's being sensitive to God as well.
Mhm.
Um, and like a lot of places I feel, um, not that it's status quo or anything, but um,
Like you feel like it's kind of they're not being sensitive to what God wants
yeah,
to
like
do, like
yeah, like
they're
it's
just
just
kind of let's just get it over with and
yeah,
let's let's make it through the service. Let's just get through the
right,
sermon. Let's come
right,
on, let's just get it done. I get what
yeah,
you're saying. I get what you're saying. And sometimes that could be a mixed feeling of like they're exhausted
right,
or it's a mixed feeling like they're not having a good day.
mm-hmm,
Um and and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. And you said something really, really good. Not everyone learns the same way. And I think that the burden any leader carries, but in this case, we're talking about a worship team. You've got to learn and understand how your team can acquire or
Mm-hmm.
embrace, and then work together to make sure that, as you mentioned, in sync,
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, and also when you're playing the song. So for you, Britt, how do you make sure as a leader that the other people that are part of the worship team, that their spiritual walk, their walk with the Lord is at the standard that it needs to be, that they're doing okay? Like, what are some of the things that you do or you try to stay conscious about to make sure that there's unity within the worship team?
So, I serve also on a district level with our youth department. So I'm the youth worship, I would say, director, coordinator.
Yep.
So like I do our church, but I also do district work. So I see a lot. I people watch.
Right.
I'm very conscious on social media of I have a high standard for myself. I was raised with a high standard.
Hmm.
Our church has a high standard for our platform. But I watch, I listen, I hear things, so I'm very cautious with who I use
Hmm.
and when I use them,
Hmm.
because when you have people up on the platform, everybody looks at you,
Right.
whether you're preaching, whether you're singing, whether you're playing the drums, the congregation watches you, whether at a district level or um, a home church level. And um, I've seen people used that were doing things on the side, and I'm like, not for me
Right.
to judge at all,
Right.
not for me to judge at all. But it's important and crucial for a church service, I believe, for your people to be in sync and to be unified, to be praying, to be studying, to be um, being used,
Right.
you know. And we have a smaller worship team, and we're very close to the people that are on our worship team, always have. And so it's easier with being close to them
Hmm.
to know when they're not doing good or to know when they're starting to slip on up on some things. It's very crucial. I start my practices off with prayer every practice. And
Mm.
I know when I don't start with prayer because there's attitudes, there's frustration, there's just chaos.
Right.
Vocals aren't in sync, all of that kind of thing. Even my dad will notice because his office is like right in the back of our sanctuary. He goes, "You need to like stop, pray, and like start again. Like, and not even just do a quick prayer, but like you need to like get into prayer and then
Right.
start yourself again." And I can't tell you how many times that has happened to us. Um, but like, and it's important not to bring outside issues into when you're starting practice or
Right. Right.
starting a church service because that hinders the move of God.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, I start off our practices with prayer, and then at my home church, we'll pray a few minutes before our service starts as a team,
Hmm.
and with one of the other ministers in our church, so that we're all unified and just into a spirit. And
Yeah. And do you get how many times do you guys practice a week? Do you guys try to practice more than aside from Sunday? Is there another day, or is it?
we used to, it's kind of give or take. We've had people come and go for our
Mhm.
worship team. Like my sister, she got married, so she's not here anymore. We had a drummer, he moved, so it's just the keyboard and vocals right now.
Gotcha.
So right now we only practice on Sunday mornings. Um, but we were doing like Thursday night practices. We'd practice my word for hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, learning new songs and
Right.
getting things down. And practices were frustrating sometimes, but
Yeah. But I mean, hey, practice makes perfect, right? So I think
absolutely.
I think at the end of the day, acknowledging the fact that we all want God to move in a powerful way.
Hmm.
We all want God to break chains, break down the walls, and really just blow the house away, right? But I
Hmm.
think it also takes to where we all have to make sure that we are all good, in our
Right.
walk with
Hmm.
God. We're all good. We're all living to the standard that needs to be.
Hmm.
Um, and we're being sensitive to the spirit. We're not allowing our flesh to hinder what he wants to do, and we're taking that initiative, that action,
Hmm.
that intention, right? Instead of and here's the thing, right? Like I think to be able to have that extra day of practice, as you were mentioning, to have 2 hours of that. I'm sure for you, when you guys were doing it, it definitely felt
Mm-hmm.
better, because then when you would play
Right.
it'd be easier
Mm-hmm.
to kind of improvise if you needed to, because
Right.
you did the
Mm-hmm.
practice.
Right.
Um, so so I think your example of how you would notice when there was frustration and chaos was due to the fact that there was not prayer done. It's just so it's incredible to see, like, once, hey, well, let's relax. Okay, let's jump into
Mm-hmm.
prayer. Let's let God do his thing, and to focus in that time frame in unity, looking for God, seeking
Mm-hmm.
God's direction, how everything settles down, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty cool how you've shared that experience, and it kind of brings in that behind the scenes. And Brittany, I feel
Right.
like as a church, and I don't mean your church, I mean just in general, the church, we may not realize the amount of work worship teams and worship leaders have to put in to get ready for for
Right.
the Sunday service, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to you and to every single of the worship leaders and vocals and instrument player, everyone, because it's not easy stuff, and you guys are
Mm-mm.
doing everything you can to give the best for the Lord in the church. So I
Absolutely.
think that's awesome. But okay, so continuing forward now in our story here of where you were just sharing with us before we jumped into the topic of being a worship leader, and how you work with your team. Let's kind of jump back into how now you were sharing with us. You answered the call to go to Bible college, to go to Indiana Bible College, to be more specific. And you felt the call to for worship ministries, but also you do feel a burden for the young people. So, Bert, I actually don't remember, but did you finish IBC
I did not. I just went for the 1 year.
for the 1 year? Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I only went for the year and a half. I
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to finish online and try to
Mm-hmm.
get the 4 years in online. Um, so okay, so Britt, so you only went for the 1 year. How
Mm-hmm.
impacting was that 1 year for you at Bible college?
So initially, I'm very hard on myself all of the time. It's just been forever. And the Lord is working on me, but um, I didn't feel when I came home that year, I didn't, because so much stuff happened in that year,
Right.
whether um, we're just going to be completely honest. I had some terrible things happen that year at IBC.
Mm,
Um, and a lot of things not necessarily tested my faith, but um, made me think, is this where I'm really supposed to be?
wow.
If God wanted me here, would it be so difficult? And so it was impactful, but it was also very difficult all at the same time. It was my first time being away from home. And like I did everything, one, with my sister, two, with my family. Our family is very close, always has been. So being away from home, I believe it had a little bit of a negative impact on me because
Mm,
I'm not the most social person ever. I'm more like stay to myself, do my own thing. And I honestly stayed in my room a lot freshman year. Would I go back? Absolutely. Now that I'm older, of course, and know more. But it was definitely impactful and helped me in many different ways other than the negative aspect.
mm. Wow, that's so
Hmm.
true. Man, maybe it catches me off guard, because we connect and you seem like an extroverted person. you know, it seems like it, and even more with what you're doing in terms of your business.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of shy. It does shock me a little bit, and that perspective, and I'm trying to remember back now, why maybe that didn't click in my mind, but I get it, in terms of how for all of us, like for me, like now trying to relate to that, I felt excited to spread my wings, at that
Hmm.
moment going to Bible college. But you're saying that for you, you weren't too excited to spread your wings. You felt like, oh man, I'm just going to be so far away from everyone that I'm close to.
Hmm.
Is that right? Is that how you felt?
Yeah. Hmm.
So, okay, so kind of walk me through that in terms of how did you deal with that struggle? I mean, 1 year is not like a day, right? I mean,
Mm-mm.
it's 365. So how did you kind of work through that?
I would say I feel like freshman or not freshman year, first semester was okay.
Right.
Um, like the first couple of weeks was difficult because that's where you make all your friends and your groups and all of that. So first semester was okay. Coming into second semester, it felt like everything just hit a brick wall. Um, I would say I talked to my parents like every single day, one, my mom. And I think that probably I think it made it a little bit more difficult because of missing home so much.
Hmm.
But being more introverted and to myself made it more difficult. I think if I would have just let go of that and just allowed God to release that in me, I would have been able to work through it easier.
Hmm.
Um, but like going out and being with friends and not staying in my room helped a lot. So I wasn't thinking about not being so close to home. And I mean, being on your own it was
Right.
great. I enjoyed the experience a lot because um, when you go from home to being on your own, it's a whole different experience
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
Um, and it's more, I had to get outside of myself really. So I wasn't always thinking about home and all of that. Um, but I think because we were so close, it made it difficult to let go. Um, but I just kept plugging really throughout the year and just crying out to God and praying and just seeking his face, and he gave me the strength to make it through the whole year. I wanted to go home, I can't tell you how many times, especially second semester.
Yeah.
Second semester was rough, 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 but God was faithful and I made it home.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's just again, it blows my mind because it's moments like these where I feel terrible to a degree because I'm like, man, why didn't I know that? Why didn't I pick that up? Why wasn't I
Mhm,
a good friend and able to detect
mhm,
that? And how could I have changed her trajectory in that sense of
mhm,
enjoying that maybe to a higher standard, a higher level. Um,
mhm.
Similar, talking when I interviewed Sheldon, it blew my mind the things that he was telling me. I'm like, bro, what? I was your roommate. Why didn't I know this stuff? You know? Um, so it keeps me in check, because it's
Mhm.
moments like these where it sounds cliche, but it's just the truth. E- Everyone can smile and everyone can say that they're doing okay, but it doesn't mean that they really are.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and so to kind of think about what you're sharing, your story, um, I feel terrible that I didn't know and I didn't do much to help you out. I mean, I'm so happy to see where you are today and how far God has
Mhm.
brought you. Um, so I guess in one side though, Britt, the other experience to this is what you went through, what you learned is a lesson for how you can be blessing to also to other people that share a
Right.
similar struggle. Am
Mhm.
I right? Is that something that
Yeah,
you've thought
absolutely.
about?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a young girl in our church who's like getting ready to go to IBC and stuff and or well is thinking about going to IBC and all that. But like I would definitely say to them like don't allow your insecurities or you missing home so much to miss out on all of the good things that happen,
Right.
because like I told people, I don't even remember how many people I've told, like there was nothing like chapel. There was nothing like our student body prayers. Like
Right.
those kept me.
Yeah.
That's what really kept me, like
Yeah.
just the strength that you felt, the bond that you felt with the other students,
So
the
powerful.
like-mindedness. Yeah, like I think about it today and it just like it makes you want to go back to those moments because you'll never get them back again, but like
Right.
those built something inside of us to help us sustain, to help us keep going.
Yeah. Agree. I would agree to that. Tuesday nights, 10 o'clock.
Mhm,
You see the sanctuary filled up with students, everyone in their own corner seats.
mhm,
Um, yeah, absolutely powerful. Absolutely
yeah,
powerful. The different moments
mhm,
that I felt God speak to me just as you would say,
mhm,
God did the same for you. So wow. So it's incredible to see really now that to fast forward, you made it through that year, you went back home. Um, Now that you went back home after that chapter in your life, Britt, where did it go from there? In terms of where you felt that calling, and I would assume you probably jumped straight into the worship side at your church, right?
Yep. So I came home. I had a hard time getting back into the groove of things when I got back home. Because to go from being under your parents' roofs to being on your own and then going back,
Right.
um, not that I was a rebel or anything like that, but like you like your freedom, you like being able to do things on your own, all of that. So having, I guess, the authority over you again was a little challenging.
Mm.
But I did jump back into leading worship when I came home. My sister was leading when I left, so we had to start sharing the responsibility.
Oh,
Um,
how was that
yeah,
feeling?
it was difficult. It was very difficult because she found her voice when I was gone, and when I was here
Mm,
leading, she had a hard time finding it. So when I came back, it was kind of like we didn't battle necessarily, but we had our
yeah.
own opinions and our own
Yep.
ways of doing things. And
Right. Right.
yeah, and like because I didn't sing on my own really at all at IBC, I was only in the choir and I only sang soprano. So my voice was a little messed up when I came home. And my dad would say stuff. He's like, Britt, like you need to like figure this out. And I'm like I sang like I don't know what's going on. And before IBC, I struggled with finding parts like tenor, alto, soprano. Struggled. I came home and like God opened up this. I remember the day like it was yesterday because I was so mind blown that I was able to recognize and be able to show people on my own, and
Right.
it's gradually progressed from there, but, like, I was like, "I wasn't ever able to do this." Like, I couldn't do parts, like, maybe 2 parts or people would find their own part, but, like, I had a hard time, like, finding them for myself before, and coming home, I'm like, "Hold on." Like, I was like, "Mom, I can do it, like, God did this for me," you know? I was pretty excited. But it took a few months for me to get back in the groove of leading and singing and all of that
Right.
stuff because we didn't have the hands-on as
Yeah.
much.
Wow. No, that's it's interesting because I think I would agree, when you're away for that long and you feel your wings to start spreading, and then you get back home
Mhm.
and it's like, okay, now I kind of got to fall back in line to what it was
Right.
before. But I think it's interesting. It's a good lesson, and for all of our viewers and listeners,
Mhm,
you know, Britt, that are watching here and listening, I'm thinking now, like that moment that you had to share that responsibility with your sister. Um, and this actually is a good segue. I think this is a good segue to the next part of my show, where I usually like to ask you for what advice you would give to someone that could be facing something similar. So going back to the topic of initially for leading worship, leading a team, what is some advice you would give to one of the younger people that are upcoming and they feel the call to be a part of a worship team, they feel the call to that they want to lead? What is some advice that you would share with them that is necessary and essential to make sure that that is a part of their life, and in order to be a part of a worship team and or lead?
I would say prayer, fasting for sure,
Yeah.
especially prayer 'cause, being part of the worship team, you're opened up to, um, a lot of different hits and being not necessarily attacked by the enemy, but your mind is plagued. You struggle with certain things, you know,
Right.
and you feel the weight of the world sometimes, and you have to have a strong foundation in order to be able to make it through that.
Yeah.
And I say music ministry is hit hard because the devil, he was an instrument himself. You know, he was the instrument to sing to God, bring him glory and all of that. And I do believe the music industry as a whole has a huge impact on our young people.
Yeah.
So those who are looking to get into the ministry, it's got to be here.
Right.
It's got to be in your heart. It becomes part of you. And when it's part of you and inside of you, it comes out of you and will
Mm,
flow.
yeah, it's good.
And with the prayer, you're able to have that connection because it's not just getting up there and, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can. And talent. My dad says this, and I believe it wholeheartedly. Talent without anointing is nothing.
Mm,
And
so
to get
good.
up on a, yeah, absolutely. And to get on a platform with just talent, you're not going to accomplish what God wants you to accomplish. So
Right.
you might have that talent. And I tell people all the time, I might be able to sing, but like it's nothing without God. Like
Yeah.
if I didn't have God, I don't think I'd be able to sing at all.
Yeah.
And when I get up there, I know if I can't sing a part in practice, I know that with the anointing, God's going to move through me and get that accomplished. And I don't say that pridefully or anything. I just have that confidence in God that
Yeah.
He's going to do what He needs to do. But you have to be praying. You have to be in His word. You've got to just be steadfast for His kingdom and
Yeah.
just know that God's the one in control of the service,
Yeah.
and He's going to flow the way He needs to, but you have to be doing what you need to be doing in order for that flow to come out.
Yeah, that's so good. That's some great advice right there because it brings back that main topic. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be
Right.
very intentional with your next steps
Hmm.
and understand that God will do his part if you're doing your part, right? He's
Exactly.
investing in you,
Right.
but you've got to invest in this relationship and understand who he is because he loves you, right? Don't
Right.
use him as a way to exploit, I guess, your I guess one way is to say branding yourself, right? And to show
Right.
everyone what you've got. No, no, no. You've got to be
Hmm.
kingdom minded and understand this is way
Right.
more than way bigger than who you are and what you're capable of doing. But
Right.
understand, like, listen, heaven, hell exists. We need to save souls. We need to preach the gospel.
Right.
And if we're leading
Hmm.
worship, we want to lead these people to have a connection with God. And when
Right.
we're singing together. So I think it's so powerful what you said. And I hope all of our listener and viewers really take that to heart because uh, I think we sometimes make that mistake, and we were talking a little bit about it, how and other places we've seen it, they focus on being too professional, or they focus on
Hmm.
just kind of getting through it,
Right.
and you're like, man, that felt so empty,
Right. Hmm.
where was the anointing in there, where was God's presence in that,
Right.
and you can definitely feel that
Hmm.
difference, that switch,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
um yeah, I think what your dad 100% agree with him and what you just shared right now. That was really good stuff right there. Good advice. So I appreciate you doing that, Britt. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, Britt. So here's the next segment. Before we jump into the books, which I like to do, this part I didn't tell you, but we're going to do some Bible trivia. All
Oh
right.
boy. All right.
But I also like to do a couple of icebreakers. So, like hypothetical questions, I think they're pretty cool, and it gets a sense of our personality. Um, so Britt, let me ask you this. I've asked one of my favorite questions, so I ask it every time actually now. If you had to choose someone, and I guess they could be, no one's really said of anyone today presently, but I'll keep it open to that nature. Everyone has said of someone that lived in the past. So if you had to choose someone that you would love to sit down and have dinner with and interview, who would that be? Who would that figure be? Whether it's today or historical figure from the past.
I would say Ruth in the Bible.
Oh, awesome. Why is
Hmm.
that? Why does that bring Ruth to your mind?
I've thought about Ruth. I'm in the process of reading a book about Ruth. But just her waiting on God, like being able to
Mm,
say to her mother-in-law that I'm gonna stick with you and your people, and I'm not going back to my old ways. I'm made a promise to your son, and
yeah.
I have a duty to fulfill. I want to be with you, and then her faithfulness brought her to her next destination, if you want to say, but
Yeah.
her next purpose.
I like that. I like that, Ruth. And plus, I would also like to know how she approached the fact that she lost her husband at an
Yeah.
unsuspected, I think, or unexpected time, where
Hmm.
where they were young,
Right.
and the mom was still
Hmm.
alive. So, um, okay, good deal, Ruth. Now, if you had to choose a historical timeline, Britt, where you would like to go on vacation for a week and check out, just a week, you get to go check it out in person now, and not something that you were just reading about or you've watched. What historical timeline would you like to go visit and check out?
Um, that's a difficult one.
There's so many of them, right?
There is. I'm not sure. That's very interesting. Maybe like the 20s or so.
Oh, why the 20s? What attracts you to the 20s?
Just the way I would say because of the shift in the way women presented themselves and
Mm,
how like it was all like gangster things going on back then and mobs and mob
the
bosses and
Industrial Revolution and
yeah.
the different change. Yeah, gotcha.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is an interesting one. I
Mhm.
think for me, usually the ones that always come to my mind is Civil War, right? I'd
Mhm.
like to interview Abraham Lincoln. I would have loved to ask him a lot of questions during that time. Um, I'm also a big World War II guy.
Mhm.
Um, like I like to watch a lot of documentaries of the Holocaust or
Mhm.
uh, how Nazis started, right? Hitler and I was interviewing Brother Chris Henderson. He actually said he would like to interview Hitler, and I was like, you know what? And I'm like, so would I. I would have been curious to understand how he got there. You know, like
Right.
him personally in his heart, how could he
Mhm.
accept so much
Right.
violence? How could he have accepted so much hatred to be just proclaimed at him? You know,
Mhm.
and um, yeah, so I think those are the 2 timelines and that I'd like to go visit and a couple of people that I'd like to interview. Um, Also, I've always said it, I've always thought to myself, I would have liked to meet Jesus as a man, okay?
Right.
You know? Maybe take a selfie, be like, "Lord, I just wanna show all these people that have got these images. I just want it so you can show them this is how you look like,"
Right.
you know?
Right.
But obviously, funny enough, I think, he purposely did not allow any paintings to take place of him.
Absolutely. Mhm.
You know? Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, that's one that always comes to my mind. Okay. All right. So next part, Bible trivia. You ready?
Mhm.
Okay. So it'll be not too many questions, but they're fun questions.
All right.
Questions that I would say, um, they're good, really nice, fun facts. So, okay, here we go. We'll start off with an easy one. Who was the oldest person that we find to live in the Bible? Who was the oldest person?
I think it was Methuselah.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
That's
let's
right.
go.
Yeah. He was actually
All right.
almost 1,000 years. Can you imagine almost a
Holy
thousand
sm
years?
mm-mm. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine 100, dear Lord.
Yeah. Just imagine living 10 centuries for 10
No,
centuries.
no.
It's like
That is so long.
it's like he lived from I'm just imagining right now, like imagine him living from 1,000 to 2,000. Okay.
2000. No, that is so long.
Like he went through England versus the US, and then where the US became uh independent, and then the Civil
Mhm.
War, and then World War One. To just imagine him living through all of that. It's unbelievable.
So crazy.
Okay, that's a good one. Next one up. What is the last book we find in the Old Testament?
Haggai, I believe, or Habakkuk or Malachi. One of those.
It's the last one, Malachi. It's Malachi.
Okay. Like, I know it's one of these.
That's funny. All right, Malachi, you got that one right. Okay, good deal. All right, next one up. What was the name of the city that the Apostle Paul was traveling to, where the Lord just gave him a good slap to the face? We can say, figuratively speaking, but shined upon him and blinded him for a couple days. Do you remember what that city was called?
I literally was just teaching about this last week.
Oh, snap.
Um,
Oh, come on now. You cannot let me down.
drawing a blank. Um, I do not.
All right, it starts with a D.
Is it Damascus?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah,
All right.
it was Damascus.
All right.
Um, okay. Who was the man that prayed over Paul where he did receive his sight afterwards?
Oh boy. Don't remember that one either.
Starts with a everyone that you taught the Bible study to be like, come on, Britt. You just studied last week. It starts with an A.
Not Ananias.
It is.
Is it really? Oh my word.
Yeah,
Look at me.
It is. That's so funny. It's Ananias. Okay, and just a couple more. How long did? First off, let me make sure I got the guy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How long did Jacob have to work for to marry Rachel?
7 years? Or is it 14?
It was 14. I feel like
Okay.
Britt, your right answer is always the second or last one, but you don't say it. You say the other one, even though that was probably not your gut feeling. Am I right?
Yes.
You got to go with your gut feeling. Just say it. Say it. Oh gosh. All right. So it is 14 years. And I was talking to someone the other day about that. I'm like, man, doesn't that blow your mind just to know how upsetting one would be to know that they're asking you before you marry, you got to work for me for this amount of years, and you work for 7 years to marry Rachel. And they're like, hey, you know what? Here, take the older sister first. Take Leah. We're going to give you Rachel when you work another 7 years. And you work 14 years, and they still didn't want to give Rachel to him. I would be completely frustrated.
So upset.
Yeah, so upset. Okay, we'll finish off with this question, and then we'll go towards our conclusion here. Okay, so last question is, I had one, and I feel like I just slipped my mind, so now I'm gonna have to go to another one here. Okay. Oh no, here, let's go to this one. This one probably seems too random. Okay, this probably seems too random. What was the name of the first son of Jacob?
First son of Jacob.
It starts with an
Last son was
R.
Benjamin.
Starts with an R. You said the last one is Benjamin?
Yeah.
All right, think of the story of Joseph. Who was the brother? Because remember, they wanted to kill him, so they threw him in that pit, right? So, who was the brother that tried to come back and save him, but it was too late? They sold him into slavery.
Cannot think of his name. Like right there.
It was Reuben.
Okay, not on the tip of my tongue.
It was Reuben. I told you it's probably a
good question.
It was probably it's a random one. It's one that we probably don't think about, or like,
No,
because we don't really talk much about him. He's not something that's part of our stories, but yeah, it was Reuben. So all right, that was good. You got most of them right on your second guesses, and you're doubting yourself. You got it. All right, so now next segue, books. You had mentioned to me before we started that you're reading a couple books. So what are a couple books that you're reading today, or that you've already read and have impacted and are continually to impact your life, that if someone were to take the moment to just look these up, listen to them, through Kindle maybe, or an Audible means, or buy them, it would impact their lives?
So right now I'm doing a ladies Bible study with our ladies at our church. And it's called The Virtuous Woman Far Above Rubies. It's by Joy Haney. One of my friends had been sending me like segments of the book, like to just read, and it was so powerful and so inspiring that I'm like, I want to read this book on my own, And then the more like I got thinking about it, I just felt the Lord laid on my heart to do it with our ladies at church. So we've been doing this study since about December-ish.
Nice.
So yeah, that's one of, right now it's amazing. Like the stuff she says is just absolutely incredible. Another one I just finished, it's called Devotedly. And it's their daughter, about a man and a woman, Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, and their daughter wrote about like how they became to fall in love and get married and all of that. So they're faith-based. It's not apostolic, but they do have a strong walk with God. And
Mm-hmm.
it just talks about how they were following the calling that God had placed on their lives individually, and how God brought them together. So that's that. And so I just
Wow.
finished this one. It took me a year to read this book, but it was so touching to hear their story,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Especially being single, you like to hear other people's how they come to figure out like their God's
Yeah.
will for their life and how they come
Came
together and
together.
all that. Mhm.
And I think it's, at the end of the day, like even what we're doing right now with this podcast, right?
Mhm.
It's the power of storytelling, but it's real stories, it's real life. And
Right.
this book that
Mhm.
you read is based on a true story of what happened.
Right.
And it's because it happened and moments that you're like, wow, I can't believe they did that, or wow, I
Mhm.
can't believe that's how it worked out and what God did there. It's so impactful, so impactful.
Mhm.
That's cool. That book
Yeah.
looks really, really good. Devotedly, I'll probably check that one out.
Mhm.
Um, awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing those two books. Now, Britt,
Absolutely.
before we get to the end of the show, you and I were discussing a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. You are
Mhm.
currently hustling out there with your own side business, and
Mhm.
I'm big. I've told people on my show I'm big on being an entrepreneur. I'm big on running after that and achieving financial freedom and time freedom, and just finding a way so you can step out of your W-2 job and be
Mhm.
full time to what you want to be doing, very passionate for. In this
Mhm.
case, I want to be full time in the ministry, and
Right.
and share that similar vision. So
Mhm.
kind of walk us through what are you doing? What is it that you do? What is it that you're selling? And I'm curious how you felt initially. Were you nervous? Were you scared to get that journey going? And how do you feel now
Mhm.
that that money is coming in?
So I've always wanted to start my own business. I wouldn't say always, probably since I was a teenager.
Hmm.
Um, so we'll say about the last 12 years, I've been really wanting to start my own business. Never really knew where to go, how to start it. I know I want to own my own boutique one day.
Mm,
Um, so that's coming along sometime, hopefully. But I just wanted to own my own business, you know?
right.
So I've I haven't tried anything, but I've had the ideas of, oh, this might work or this might work. One big thing, I don't know if you know what LuLaRoe is. It's this company that came out of the woodwork, it felt like just a few years ago. And they sell clothing, skirts, shirts, everything under the sun, it seems, now that they're all of that. I went to my parents and like, I want to start this business. It's really kicking right now. Um, and my dad's like, "Yeah, that's a hard no, like, that's not gonna happen, like, because
Mm,
it's only gonna be popular for a period of time, and then it's just gonna, like, fall by the wayside, and nobody's gonna hear about it again," and I'm like, "But dad," you know?
right.
So I didn't start that, and then I started using Rodan and Fields, which I believe I had heard of them maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, "They're too expensive, like, I ain't got that kind of money."
Right.
And I personally have struggled with acne all my life, and everybody's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, when you become an adult, it'll get better." It didn't get better. It got worse.
Mm,
So I literally searched everywhere. I went to my dermatologist for stuff. Nothing worked for me. So I tried what's called Spotless. It's our teen and acne skincare line, and it worked. Like it helped my skin immensely. And it not even like just helped with the acne, but it like transformed my skin like so it looked more vibrant and all of that. And I'm huge on apostolic ladies don't spend money on cutting our hair or anything like that.
right.
So like to spend money on skincare, it's taking care of yourself, you know? So like I felt that's important. So months went by, and the girl that I bought, she actually went to IBC and knew my sister. So my sister got us in contact, and I was interested in the business and I wasn't interested. And so
Hmm.
finally I said, God, you know, if this is your will, I pray that you would supply the money for me to buy my kit and for me to join. And within 2 weeks, I was saving money, but I also seen that I had extra money in my bill account. And I was like, okay, God, here we go. So I signed up, started, and it's been a little bit over a year now. At first, I was scared out of my mind. And I'm like, what did I get myself into? how am I going to make this work? What am I going to do? Like, how am I going to get people to buy into the business? How am I going to get people under me? Like, all these questions going on in my mind. And one thing I was thankful for is the team that I joined. So what's really cool about my team is our head leader is her mom was the first, what is it even called?
Pioneer?
Consultant.
Okay.
She was the first consultant with the Rodan and Fields business when they pulled out of retail and went just specifically with consultants. So she's like one of the top head leaders on the company. And so it's really cool to be on a team like that and to have that kind of exposure and stuff. So what's really nice is that our team leads with excellence and they're really behind you and support you and helping you build your business and all of that. And so at first I was like, I don't see any money coming in, or I don't blah, 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 blah. And 1 month we had some kind of sale deal thing going on and I hit my first goal and I thought everything was going to be sunflowers and roses and it was just going to keep going on like that. And it doesn't work like that. You know, you have to keep putting in, you've got to keep reaching out to people and getting your stuff out there.
Right.
And when you were saying earlier that I look like I'm an extroverted person, when I know people, it's one thing, but like people I don't know, I'm like I freeze, completely freeze. So to put myself on camera and talk to people like on Instagram and stuff, I just was like, I don't know if I can do that. So one day I just did it and it became easier and easier and easier.
Right.
And it's also with ministry, what you put in is what you're going to get out.
Right.
So it's been amazing to see the growth from when I started to where I'm at now and knowing kind of sort of how to work the business and knowing if I put in this month or there's certain areas that you have to put into, you know, when you're put into one area more than the other area, that area is going to succeed more so than the other area,
right.
You know, but it's been incredible. It's been a great experience to start your own business. It's been difficult, not where I want to be. But I'm working towards where I want to be eventually.
That's awesome. You're a worship leader, you work at a bank, and you've got your own business going, which listen, that's what it's about. You got to put in the ground, you got to put in the work.
Right.
You've got to take that initiative to plan and take those steps necessary to hit those goals, those objectives, right? So I first off congratulate you on hitting those goals and making it this far, but so many more chapters to come, Britt, so many more opportunities to come, where the end game here is for this to explode, for you to quit your job, and for you to be like, all right, I'm full-time, baby, and here we go, you know, rock and roll.
Right, absolutely.
And I think that's really, you know, like what we were discussing, I think that it would be amazing to see more and more people feel that same direction of like, okay, I need to focus on ways how I can create wealth and allow myself to be more available to what God wants to do with my life for His kingdom, right? Now, of course, talking to Georgian about this, Georgian Pedagogue, he made a good point, right? Listen, you can be the best preacher, apostolic, as a plumber, as an engineer. I mean, whatever you want to do in a career. I mean, if that's what you want to do, go for it and be the light in that space and win as many souls as you can. So I understand not everyone feels that desire to be an entrepreneur, but I think financially it makes the most sense and it gives the most freedom. So for all of our people watching, listening, I will make sure to put Britt, your contact, I guess, because I know you were sharing that in your profile. People can go there and click on the link. So we'll share that and people can check out those products. So, which actually is a great question now. Britt, where can they find you? What are those platforms people can check not only you out and the amazing things that God will continue to do in your life and your family's life, but also to check out these products?
So I am on Instagram and Facebook. I do not do Twitter. But I try to be as active as possible on both of them. You can catch me on Facebook, it's just Brittany Pelkey. Instagram, it's like a hyphen, first name, last name, and then another hyphen. You can message me on Messenger or Instagram, whatever is easier, comment on my post. And that's the major place to find me, but if you go to my profile on either Facebook or Instagram, I have a skincare quiz where you can find that, and it can also go into the link for the website.
Nice. Awesome. Good deal. Yeah, that's amazing stuff. So I'm happy, Britt. I'm so happy to see how far God has brought you and what He's doing. And I'm excited to see all the other new chapters that will be coming on the way here this year, next year, and just continue to see God do those amazing stuff. The blessing for you to put it in that work. So that's awesome. Congratulations on that. So Britt, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been an amazing honor to spend some time with you and hear your story, and again to hear the different things that you're balancing here: worship leader, entrepreneur, working. I mean, you're doing it all. So awesome job. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching the show today. If you enjoyed it, make sure to follow us and subscribe so you can stay up to date with the newest episodes, and follow us on all social media platforms. So check out the links below.